Hey everybody, welcome to episode 128 of the Bonehead Podcast, where we talk all things Blood Bowl. Jingle. Welcome back. I'm Ben, and once again, I'm joined by Blood Tithe Ben. BT, how you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good. I believed that. That was good. That was mostly good. That was good.
Less tired than last week, I will say that. Yeah.
And we are also joined by TO extraordinaires and various correspondents, one being 3D printing in Blood Bowl 3 and the other one being our foreign correspondent. We've got Ian Triple Power Triplo and Miltonio Banderas. Guys, how you doing?
All good, thanks.
Yeah, good on my end, thanks.
Milton, you are very patient with me and my my Isle of Wight things. It quite confused the heck out of Tiff the other day. Well, she was like, oh, I was like, I ran Milton back to the shipyard, and she was like, oh, how was it? And I was like, yeah, it was pretty difficult getting him underneath one of the trucks, but he did okay. She was like, I don't understand. I was like, oh, because I was like, oh, it's actually just not funny. Like, I'm really sorry. And I was like, I probably owe him an apology. But, you got to escape from prison one way or another. Anyway, it's Christmas over in Milton Land.
Yeah. Christmas is coming. It's arrived in the Isle of Wight.
I asked him to take it down, but he said no.
Ben was enraged.
We've moved on. We've had Halloween. We've had bonfire night. It's Christmas now.
I can only assume that the lights are because you have like envy of trips.
Yeah.
100%.
I do. I get it.
I needed to out LED trips in some way.
I'm really falling behind. Like, I've just got grey and white. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so boring. Like, Ben's got the green screen going on. You got LEDs all over the shop and the other two, and I'm here with just a grey, bad blind.
For just £2 a month, we can get Ben Christmas lights.
Get me some LEDs,
We
please.
can do it. Let's crowdfund this. Just see if we can cover your entire wall. That's your shared office space, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure your partner would adore that.
Yeah. You could get a nice set of LED curtains, and we could put little messages behind you. That would be quite good fun.
I say this, my house did look fire on Halloween.
Oh,
I had so many
yes.
comments.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
a last minute thing. People down the road started decorating, and I was just like, oh man, okay, I can't like stand out as the house that isn't like looking Halloweeny. Had like barely any decorations, so found what I could like in the box, just a couple of like skulls and things. But then I was just like, but what
Classic
I do
Games
have,
Workshop player.
yeah. But no, what I do have is some RGB bulbs and some lights that Ben knows, the classic our little starter LED things.
Oh, they're
And,
quality.
Yeah, and I have those. I've got some films, some like colored, filters. I could do this, so I made them green. I've got some color changing bulbs that I set up on a timer to move between green and purple every now and then, and I just put it all around the house. My gaming table I lit up green, so that shines through the window. And it looks awesome, like because we've got a house in the corner. So you just walk past and it's just like glowing green and purple beacon like a mad science lab.
It did look
awesome.
very, very
did
cool.
look-
Did you get any trick-or-treaters?
Oh, so many. It was really bad. I had D&D planned, and I was there like mid-combat being like, this is my turn. I'm really sorry. Gotta go. It's like 30 probably visits.
We
I would
were
have made all the kids
Yeah.
roll a D20 to start off with.
a critical fail. Give me your candy.
The intimidation check, please.
It was Tuesday night, wasn't it? It was a club night. Is that right? Halloween? Yes. Actually,
Yeah, it was.
yeah. I went to club. Tiff went out for dinner with a friend, but before we went out, she was like, "If you go, what will we get trick or treaters? We don't have decorations, so surely if we don't have decorations, we won't get trick or treaters." And I was like, "Well, I don't know. We didn't buy any sweets, but in the shed." We had the Halloween bowl that we used for the Twilight Imperium sweets because, hosting. So I whipped them out. I was like, well, if anybody does turn up, like, we'll have the sweets there. But I was like, you're right. With no decorations, no lights, like, I'm sure no one will turn up. But we were waiting for Amazon delivery. And then, like, we had a little knock on the door. And I was like, Amazon's here. I was waiting on resin. I was like, woo, went to the door. And there was just this woman and her tiny child. And I was like, oh, That's not resin. It's like, here's the bowl of sweets, help yourself, cool. And then resin arrived afterwards, but I was like, oh, that's like, what's the rules on like stealing sweets from people? I guess there aren't any.
I don't know.
Halloween is strange.
Stupid American tradition.
It's cool though.
Yeah. It's quite fun. It's nice to like interact with the neighbors. I think that's always like valued. Like that's why I quite liked it here, because never used to have it in where I used to live before, and like now it's here and it feels quite neighborly because we've got a lot of like families here.
Ben,
so.
no one came to your house before because you had your printers in your garage and it looked like a meth lab.
That is true. Yeah, I do walk out of that gloves on.
It's just coming out.
Facial mask.
Breaking Ben.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm always there, like in my pajamas at like 10 a.m. spraying models just onto the street. I've got a porch. It means I can do it when it's raining.
Oh, right. I just meant in the road. Like, just put them on the curb and spray around the sides.
Stand in the middle of the road, yeah.
Actually, Milton, isn't that how you met somebody like from Wobble when one of you were like leaning out their window?
Yeah. Where I was living before. This was during the pandemic, and I was like spraying out the window, and the guy in the building opposite was like, "What you spraying?" I was like, "Oh, Blood Bowl." And then we ended up having a conversation. Turns out he plays Warhammer, and then I invited him to club, and he came and played with us.
Ah, I love that. I love the circle of like how you get people involved in club. It's wicked. Although there is someone in my road. I haven't figured out who yet. But when Dad and I were building the foundations for the shed, you heard this like, tss, 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 tss. And we both stopped and we were like looking at each other. I was like, someone's priming Warhammer, but we couldn't see. So it must be like 3 or 4 houses to the left or the right. And I haven't managed to figure it out yet. But like every now and again, I'll just hear that shh, 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 and I'm like, oh.
It's the interval of bursts.
It is.
Like, that can only be from
That's exactly it. I was like, oh.
It can't be like a bike frame or something.
I love it. It's like meerkats, like the sound of the hobbyists.
Yeah.
It's like the cool. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Anyway, what are we supposed to be talking about? Ben, what are we talking about today?
Bonehead Bowl.
Oh, yes,
So we
that
had Bonehead
happened.
Bowl at the weekend. Yeah, we're gonna have a little like rundown of how it went and all of that. It was really fun, and yeah, it was awesome to see people there. Like, it felt like a really super friendly event.
Oh, it was so good to see everybody. We sold out. We got 50 tickets in, I think. Mill, we have 46 players in the end, including you guys.
46, including me and Ben.
That is an awesome turnout. I know we had a couple of people drop out and then replace them, which is wicked. And Trips, I know you and I spoke and actually think we can probably up it to 60 at our next tournament in Toyment. Just have to make sure that Pete knows we'll be taking all of the space, and all the 40k guys will have to go play in the car park on the sidewalk where Ben primes. But yeah, no, it was absolutely wicked. So we'll be talking about Bonehead Bowl today, but I think we've got a few bits of Blood Bowl news to have a look at first. Okay, so Blood Bowl news. We did the roll call for Patreons and stuff last week, the last episode. I always say last week, but like we only do this bi-weekly. And I said this to Ian, like in Warhammer the other day. He was like, "Oh, you don't do it weekly?" I was like, "No, we've never, ever, ever done it weekly, but it's always like last week on the Bonehead podcast." Ben was mean.
It feels like weekly.
Yeah, it does. It does. And in Games Workshop land, that doesn't really give it much time to, release anything, but more on that later. Got a couple of Kickstarters kicking around. We've got Fantasy Football Billboards, which I came across today. This looks like it's just gone live, and the Google one is upsetting, but it's do you know what? I actually haven't properly looked at this, but this is an STL file, bunch of panels with some very basic kind of advertising bits on. And they've done quite a good job. So they're printable in 3 parts, so they can be printed on resin or not. But they've got like the chaos bits, and you've got some size guides. Not a massive fan of the shape of the billboard. It looks like a surfboard.
Surfboard, yeah.
Like literally square would have been better. But I did think that it was a cool little. It's just great to see little stuff like this going on, because we always do the Kickstarters and like, here's this Kickstarter for 8 teams, and it's like, oh cool, I didn't like having money, but seeing like a Kickstarter that's like this for like, hey, here's some cool extra bits that you do not remotely need but you can pick up, and it's £13 or £15 for 48 advertising balloon panels and all stretch goals. And I just thought it was cool. I thought I'd share it. Is this something you guys would use?
Personally, no. I don't tend to use many like bits and bobs, to be honest, with Blood Bowl, which is a shame, but it would be nice to have that set up at some point. But
I think if you're going for like a centerpiece thing, or like if you wanted to like pair it up with maybe something like the Mud and Blood pitches or whatever, could be quite cool.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, actually, if you're building a stadium, so obviously we will be doing that. Like, so we need some advertising boards. But I just thought some of the ones they did was actually quite good. The Pain Station in particular was quite good, even if it is literally just the logo. Spike, you've got Ghoul. I just thought it was a cool little thing. Probably breaching IP by using the actual logos, but I don't know. If you're looking for some billboards that are pre-prepped and ready to go, actually, pretty good thing for a pretty good price.
Yeah.
And then for something a little bit bigger. So this is Succuba Studios. They've gone live. They've got 24 days to go from now. So that's Sunday, the 3rd of December. Dude. I mean, I was going to say, oh, wow, Christmas is here. And then I remembered Milton with the Christmas tree on the go there. Ours is going up next weekend. It is too soon, but we're very conscious of like all of a sudden baby stuff. So but I have this hang up in retail. In my element of retail, we don't put Christmas decorations up until after Armistice Day, because it's deemed to be in poor taste, which I get. Like, I think that's actually quite good, because you make a big thing about Armistice Day, but if you've already got the Christmas stuff out, it gets a bit like confused. The messaging gets very confused. So I've always been like, Christmas stuff doesn't go up until at least Armistice Day. So I told this to Tiff. I was like, no, not until Armistice. And she's like, when's that? I was like, 11 o'clock on Saturday the 11th. And she was like, okay, well we're around my grandparents for lunch that day, so when we get back, let's put the tree up.
Defeated by your own logic.
Yes. So yeah, the tree will be up. And then I looked at my watch earlier when we were talking about it, and I was like, that's 3 days. Like the tree will be up in 3 days. But to be fair, with everything going on and having the house, it's very exciting, like, to put up the tree.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Succuba Studios have dropped a Harlequins Kickstarter. And it is, from the looks of it, Pro Elves. Now, I haven't had a proper look yet, but we've seen loads of the Succuba Studios teams. Specifically, every time Rick buys one, he's like, Ben, would you like to do an unboxing? And he's already messaged me saying, hey, I've backed this. Would you like to do an unboxing when it arrives? I'm like, yes, please, Rick. That would be wicked. So we know that the miniatures are excellent quality. And I mean, what more do you need to know? So they've gone with the Harlequin-themed Pro Elf team. I mean, if you close your eyes, unless you're driving and listening to the podcast, and picture a Harlequin-themed Pro Elf team, this is exactly what it is. They've got the Games Workshop Elven Union armor with the Harlequin face masks and bits on. Like, what do you think, Ben?
They're super well made. They're very sexy. The
Succuba Studios do have a style to them.
Yeah, the silhouette logo does look like a gentleman's club logo.
I was just thinking more Harley Quinn.
Yeah, they I think they're really good. I don't think they're like egregiously like.
The models are fine.
Yeah.
The models are fine, I think.
Yeah. No, they're really good. They're really well made. They're really well sculpted. They are hot. So yeah, if that's what you want for your miniatures. Then.
This is definitely Batman. Harley
so there's
Quinn.
yeah. There's the guy that runs the Games Workshop on the island, who plays in the local Blood Bowl league. He has a Wood Elf team made from Eldar Harlequins. Is that what they're called?
I think you'll find it's Eldarii.
All right, yeah. And like, it's very much in a similar sort of vein to that, and I quite like that sort of style. The imagery of it, like the aesthetics, very like the checked pattern, the like diamond check patterns and stuff they've done on the examples and everything. I imagine you need to paint all that on, but it looks cool. It's a cool theme.
Oh, that is a really, really, really good point, actually. Just a little bit of texture. No, that is freehand stuff. Yeah. So team-wise, we're looking at €69 for... Oh, they've numbered them. That's magic. For 16 players and stuff. Oh, they've done a mini set for 7s. Oh, no, a lineman pack, 40 for 8. You got a catcher's pack, 20 for 4. Throwers, 13 for 2. Losing my voice. Blitzers, 13 for 2 as well. So you can pick up that. But a team for £60, is that right? £61. Yeah. 16 models, 8 line, 2 blitzers, 4 catchers, 2 throwers. So it's a standard Elven Union team with unlocked stretch goals. 61 quid for a high quality third. Yeah?
They had some witch elves as well and extra blitzers, so you can make a dark elf.
Ooh.
I think I saw some witch elves earlier.
Did we see witch elves?
I swear I did. Yeah, those ones. Those two. Are they stars?
No, they're
stars. There you go.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Nick's Aria. Yeah. That as I say, it feels like a miss. When you're doing like your vanilla vanilla elves, I mean, I guess they've already done them all. It's just such a... Anyway, £61 for a pro elf team. The standard that these guys do, I think, is actually pretty good. Like you said, Ben, it's a bit stylized. I do think it does remind me of the animated Batman series, which I, can't really knock that. Although I think Batman of the Future was obviously the best.
I think I've seen that.
You mean Batman Beyond, wasn't it?
I do mean Batman Beyond, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I liked that. But anyway, cool. So another Elven Union team coming here. So that's it for Kickstarters, but there was a bit that I don't think we've actually spoken about on the podcast, which is Grebo Games have dropped a vampire team. So vampires, obviously all the rage at the moment. They've gone a different style. So Brute Funds dropped a vampire team that can also be used as a human team with your classic kind of Blood Dragon vibe to it. You've got the Games Workshop one, and then you've got the Grebo one, which has gone in their kind of classic video game aesthetic style. I don't know if you can see that on the screen well enough. Can I zoom in? No, I can zoom out though. That's almost as helpful. So we've got... They look like if you had Vampire Skaven, which that's kind of the vibe. They're very ghoulish. They're very ghoulish with weird zombie thralls. Grebo, I feel like, tend to do quite vanilla teams, but with a MMO style to them. But this one is massively different compared to what they'd normally do. I mean,
feels like Blade come to the Blood Bowl pitch.
It is an odd aesthetic. It's God, there was a brilliant comment on the Discord about that, the Bat Ogre. It's like, would you like some bat with your bat? Because it's got a bat like on top of it.
Yeah.
It is a very cool Bat Ogre. It is a peculiar choice of Bat Ogre hat for the Bat Ogre. Yeah, you got it there.
Yeah.
It's cool. But Grebo do some good stuff. I do not think it is remotely as useful as the as Brute Funds. Like, it's just not. Or, Milton, I think you homebrewing one.
Yeah, I've got the Vargeist kit, which Mr. Warhammer's done a wicked one already. He's actually put his together completely. Mine's sort of in bits on the side, but there's a lot of options out there already for it, and like the style's really kind of like unique, but there's a lot of other ones out there that I think are probably better to fit with other stuff, but if you're obviously going to run the team as a whole, then it works really well together.
It is just it's just like I say, a bit much. I don't mean a bit much, but it's much more aesthetically solitary than most of Grebo's stuff. This like a lot of Grebo stuff would go with its stuff, like the big orcs fit with the dwarves just fine, and this feels like a style of itself. Even the photos of the models are kind of like dark and gloomy, and it's great to see because it looks like this is actual real model instead of the usual kind of render that they do. But I mean, it's very cool to see. And like you said, it's always good to have like an extra. No, Siri, don't be doing that. An extra alternative. Did we have a look at the Skaven team that these guys did? I think it went on Kickstarter for like a week or something.
I think. I think I completely missed this.
Yeah,
I remember it.
Rives. They did a Kickstarter, but it was only on for like a week. And let's see. I'll tell you what, they are doing a really good job showing off the actual prints of their models. So it's kind of like got the goblins aesthetic. They looks like the Pathfinder goblins, mixed in with some rats that look very cool and really nicely painted. They've just got this weird, like, they've got small head, big shoulders syndrome, which made it a little peculiar in my eyes. And I love a good Skaven team, so it was cool to see. I like the way they do all of this stuff.
Yeah, it's the classic Grebo style. I think it works really well for some teams. I don't know about the Skaven personally. Not really to my taste. Everything's a bit rounded and things. The vampires, I think, is a bit too batty. But I find, I don't know. It's just not for me, really, personally. But the
I quite like them as a completely different take on vampires. So I think if you don't like any of the other ones out there, this one might be one you like. And they're going to look different because I think we're going to see a lot of people playing vampires over the next 6 months.
We've got like 3 or 4 in our league at the moment anyway. And I think you should be playing vampires. I think they're very cool. But anyway, Grebo doing some absolutely fantastic stuff. So the last bit I had on the news clip here is that Games Workshop have got a preview show coming up in... I'm just all the dates at the moment are just lost on me. Like the big down tick is happening, and this is happening in 2 weeks' time, 1 week time. Yeah, a week after my Christmas tree goes up. That's right, at 3 o'clock in the morning. But I mean, it's all exciting to have a 40k AOS Heresy, Old World, Underworld, Kill Team, and Necromunda release. Saw a great little meme on the Lord of the Rings page that was just this image with a little thing down here that said no MSG, BG, or whatever it's called.
No MSG.
No MSG is now how I'll be referring to the Middle Earth strategy battle game. So all well and good. I mean, I feel like we just had a preview show for all of this. I mean, was there anything particularly shiny on the preview show last time, Ben?
I cannot remember. I feel like I'm so out of the loop.
They released another Primarch, didn't they?
Oh, Fulgrim came out. Yeah, that's true. Was that on this though?
That was a snake.
Like
was
random...
that the snake boy?
Yeah. I thought it was just a random drop. I don't think that was this.
Was it?
I can't remember when the last big preview event was and what they showed.
There was a big bit about the old world on the last one where they were like, here's Bretonnians, here's some more Bretonnians, and some more Bretonnians, which was pretty cool. But they seem to be on an absolute burner at the moment for showing stuff that you've already seen and that gives you absolutely nothing. Trips, I think you flagged this up with the Epic news the other day. It was like, here's an article.
Yeah, here's an article of all the articles about the thing that you still can't get.
It did make me laugh because I was like, wow, we've gone from previewing the preview to now like pre-articling the articles. I thought that was quite a good bit of pad. Anyway, the reason I'm talking about this is because this is actually taking place at the Games Workshop World Championships of Warhammer. And I'm really interested in this because I obviously would love to see them do something like this for Blood Bowl. They've been picking up the pace of their Blood Bowl tournaments at Games Workshop HQ. I know, Ben, you went up, picking up the pace of running them more frequently. Whether there's other things or not, definitely for discussion. But they've been doing more Blood Bowl tournaments. And that's not fair. They've been running more Blood Bowl events, I think is a better way of saying it. And we've got the World Championships of every other system apart from MSG, right? Actually, I don't think that's fair. It's just Warhammer and Warhammer Age of Sigmar that I think. I find it really interesting that they've got a game system that is built around literally like the game itself. Like the theme of the game is playing in a tournament and winning. Like it's as meta as the Yu-Gi-Oh card game was, the anime was, right? Which I thought was awesome at the time. I was like, hey, they're just cutting out all the BS and going straight for a TV show about running a card game. And then I think South Park did an even better one when they were like, with the Chin Pokemon. It was just a case of like, it's a TV show about buying things, which is absolutely quality. So Games Workshop running World Championships for AOS and 40k. I mean, Milton, you are there when it comes to the minutiae of running a tournament. Is this something you would like to see Games Workshop do for Blood Bowl?
It's an interesting one. I think me and Ben discussed this quite a bit on our travels to Bonehead Bowl. I would love for Games Workshop to, how do I put this? For them to put more consideration into Blood Bowl, as you said, into the kind of concept of tournaments and to kind of bring that excitement to the game. Now we went, and was it earlier this year? Was it last year? We went up to Nottingham.
It was this year. Yeah, it was spring.
Was it this? Yeah, and that was really great fun, and like having that kind of atmosphere, being in and around Nottingham HQ, and having all of that kind of going on and that buzz with all the players was really great. I think maybe they're kind of in this sort of. I don't fully know their history of running Blood Bowl tournaments and stuff. It felt like, having been to other tournaments ourselves and having such a great community, that maybe them they kind of got some places where they can grow with it. And so I'd definitely love to see them do that and take kind of ownership of that and make that better. But from the experiences we had, which were great, but by no means, I think in order to kind of run like a big tournament like that, they'd really have to nail down what it is that they're already doing. I think that's a fair assumption.
Is that them running events as opposed to running tournaments?
Ooh, that's a good question.
A very diplomatic answer, though, Milton.
Yeah, why would you have gone more cutthroat with it?
They have a long way to go. I don't know. I might just be because it's like fresh from going to the previous one, but they if we're gonna have some kind of world championships for Blood Bowl, that's not the World Cup. I'd rather see it in anyone else's hands but Games Workshop's. Personally, they could do it, but they never will, and it will be. It would just. It's a shame because if they put a bit of care into it, they could come up with something amazing. They have the resources and the capability to do so, but I just don't think they care.
I don't know if they have the resources. I think it feels like
they can get them.
Well, let me rephrase. The people who care don't have the resources to do it as well as they should do it, and I think that's massively like tarnished by my view of the corporate world at the moment, where it's like, hey, those of you who know what you're doing, no budget for you. Those of you who don't know what you're doing, you control the budget. And I feel like that's a little bit of everywhere. So the Blood Bowl team, all of the releases and like the little random community bits that they pop up on Warcom and stuff, like the last one for Halloween, that's just fun goodness. Like, I really like what Games Workshop, the Blood Bowl team, are doing. The star players are great. The rules are great for the most part. If you know, and that's really, really, really good. I think you just fit into that corporate thing where the events are run by the events team, and the events team, I think, like you said, Ben, potentially don't play Blood Bowl. And we are kind of spoiled because Blood Bowl tournaments for a very long time have been run by Blood Bowl players for Blood Bowl players. And I think that's what you get when you go to a Blood Bowl tournament. Whereas with AOS, like, it's so miserable to run an Age of Sigmar tournament that Pete can't get anyone to do it for Beachhead. Like, and I just, like, and like, but, you know, and they've got a world championship berth. Like, Games Workshop have said, hey, huge event, you get a champion going to the world championships, and no one wants to run it. And it's like, oh. And then you got Blood Bowl, where, you know, you go to a bad Blood Bowl tournament and you have a great time playing games.
You go to a Blood Bowl tournament every weekend, I reckon, if you chose in the UK. If you really tried, like
100%.
Oh my god, yeah! Like, we are absolutely spoiled.
So that's a great question, though. So the ones you just showed on the screen, the events that are coming up, are they run by the events team, or are they community run but just backed by Games Workshop?
What, the World Championship ones for Age of Sigmar?
Because what you said is correct. Because with the right person, so someone that really was passionate, understood the game, you know, could run all of that stuff, backed by Games Workshop, as opposed to maybe the events team who aren't regular Blood Bowl players but are there to support an event happening, could make it work.
And that is exactly what you see with the American events. So James Luft is the guy who runs, or I may be wrong, he runs at least one of the American events for Games Workshop. So think of stuff like LVO and Adepticon and stuff like that, the Blood Bowl tournaments that happen there. Like, he's an example of a Blood Bowl player that would run their own tournament, but actually is like, right, I've got this. Like, you give me resources in the way of people and stuff, and I'll run you an event. And they've backed that, and it's gone, you know, really well, by all accounts. But the Age of Sigmar stuff, I believe it's kind of like ITC tournaments are picked, or they're given a golden ticket to say the winner gets part of this championship. I don't know, but it's just like they're feeding tournaments. But this one, with live coverage, is being run by Games Workshop, I believe. And I don't know. Obviously, I just want Blood Bowl to be bigger and better. And I'm not gonna bury the lead. Like, I'd love to have a Pro Tour, like Magic the Gathering Pro Tour style for Blood Bowl. Would just be exquisite, and dibs on that in every way. So maybe not like a series of Games Workshop run events leading to a championship, but a Games Workshop hosted championship of some kind. I think would be wicked. And part of me is probably thinking, because if Games Workshop did live coverage, it would be a real interesting thing to see, and a real cool spike.
Why does Games Workshop have to do it? I feel like Blood Bowl has like such a strong third-party scene that would just be completely ignored in that kind of setting, though. That's what I mean. Where it's like, I feel Blood Bowl thrives on the fact, like, if you enter the World Cup, like all of the vendors, like there is no Games Workshop in sight, and it's amazing. You can fill a hall with it, and it's just like there is just this whole community outside of it, which I think would be great to celebrate in a kind of World Series thing. Imagine like all the sponsorships you can get like companies and stuff. Maybe if you pulled people in, have representatives, you could have teams playing with Charlie Victor on their shirts or whatever. Like, well, you already do that.
I was going to say,
you already get that.
this is exactly
You
what
already do that all
happens.
over the place.
I don't know. I don't know.
but,
I just want more. And I guess I guess you're right, Ben. I guess what you're calling out here is that I guess I do kind of want the rubber stamp, because as you know, as feudal as the Blood Bowl community is, and in a great way, it is fractured, and we have this kind of like interesting divide between Games Workshop rules and not Games Workshop rules. I saw a thing on Facebook earlier today where someone was asking a question of like, oh, FAQ, like what would you like to see in the FAQ, which will be coming in a few weeks, I hope. And it was like, well, one of the things I'd like to see is the extra time. Like it says 8 turns. Is that 4 turns each, or is that like 8 turns each at the end of the game? And I was like, you know what? Never even read it. Never even thought about it like that. Maybe it does read that way. And a couple of people flagged up and were like, well, do what you want. Like, why are you even worrying about it? And the guy was like, well, because I'd like the game to be represented and play. I'd like people who are coming to club to be able to play the game that they've bought and not just our version of the game. And there is that kind of like, I don't know, I say officialness that we don't need. We've proven this. Like the World Cup, like every one of our tournaments. Here's the rules, they're compiled, this is what we're using, have a great time, and people have a fantastic time. But there is that level of like, cool, you're the NFL is a cracking example. Nobody cares about the winner of a American Football League in America that isn't the NFL. NFL is the American Football League. Someone's like, cool, you're an XFL champion. It's like, that means nothing. Like, congratulations. In the same way that it means how Americans call themselves world champions for the only games that they only play. Like, it's that kind of, it's just weird. I don't know why. And I think we've had this chat before. It's that rubber stamp that just means something to some people.
But I think
in the Blood Bowl world, sorry, Milton, I feel in the Blood Bowl world is the opposite.
But the blood,
you're like Games Workshop only.
But Blood Bowl is bigger than the Blood Bowl community, though. Games Workshop is bigger than the Blood Bowl community. I mean, not for long. All you have to do is look outside your window and hunt down the person spraying models, which I think is cool.
I think what you hit just there is really important, and I think that was probably one of the biggest gripes I've heard about the Games Workshop led events, Blood Bowl events, is the rules themselves being kind of the biggest contention, because Games Workshop, when we went, basically was like, match play guide, this is the rules, you know, whatever's the current published rule set, you know, the tiering was exactly as what's in the book and whatever. Now, you know, if you came to one of our tournaments or any one of the many other tournaments that are run by other individuals, whether it's the World Cup or whatever, you know, the rules pack is curated, and the slight issues that you find with the current published rules are kind of curated and refined. The tiering is refined, you know, the
FAQs are in there.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And it creates like a very clear, very like even playing field. So in order for Games Workshop to be able to kind of get there, they'd have to make sure that the rules were that tight and then enforce them and create that standard. And I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, you are none of you are wrong in any way, shape, or form. Like you're exactly right. And I think when we heard that Age of Sigmar wouldn't have anybody running at a beachhead, I sort of said, hey, Milt, fancy it? And while I know that like you have the logistical ability to do it, not knowing the spirit of the game and not living it and knowing the problems the end user is going to have puts you at such a massive disadvantage if you're running an event, I think. And I feel like that's some of what we've seen.
I mean, I like AOS as a setting. I liked AOS as a game. I've completely gone off of it now. I doubt I'll ever revisit it. But the thought of like, yeah, having to... I genuinely believe that running a tournament for one of those game systems could be really fulfilling and really exciting, particularly if you had the enthusiasm that we have from the Blood Bowl community. You know, like when we run an event, like everyone turns up, and we'll go into this about Bonehead Bowl in a bit, but like everyone turns up super excited, super prepared, ready to go, you know, and ready to try their best to win. You know, they're having fun. You know, we've got like a really good community of people. We've got some regulars. We get some new players. I like what would scare me enormously is that maybe that wouldn't translate to those game systems. Maybe it does. I don't know. I'm not involved in it, but I think that would be where you would find the fulfillment from it. Probably not the rules.
Yeah, and I think like you just said, like, I don't know, I'm not in it. I don't know what I want to get out of a tournament. I think is the thing you need to know, because like we've, you know, over time, over years, we've been running events, and we run tournaments the way that we want them to be run for players, for us as players. So some people find it really challenging, like, to provide a roster ahead of time, because they're like, well, why can't I just turn up on the day with my roster handwritten and it'd be okay? Like we had this before, like some long-standing NAF players were like, I'm not gonna send you my roster, like I'm gonna print one off and I'm going to bring it with me. It was kind of like, cool, like we want to do it this way so that there's no queue at the door checking the roster, because as players we don't want to do that on the day. We want to rock up, say hello, and then spend half an hour chatting with everybody, checking out their teams and their rosters, and then having the games go ahead, instead of us double checking that you've not used too many skills. And it's like, well, that's why we do it that way. It's not because there's one way to do it, it's because that's what we want as players. And I think, you know, if you don't know what you want as a player, you can't necessarily gauge it. And the great thing, and I mean, Ben, you're kind of doing the tourney circuit at the moment, is that every Blood Bowl tournament has a very different vibe, a very different cut. But that's the bit before where you build your roster. On the day, generally speaking, as soon as you sit down, it's the same game, right?
Yeah. No, it is. It is. Yeah, no, you're right. I was just gonna elaborate, but it's. I think we've touched on the point enough. I just wanted to finish with like, if you're talking about tournament vibes, the sort of least coherent one, or if that's lack of a better word, I don't know. It's just in terms of vibes, the Games Workshop ones are the ones that I feel are lacking the most in terms of just this is a really organized event. They are the least organized events I've been to, and that's what worries me in like a World Championship consideration. I just feel like what I said at the start, where I would love to see it anywhere but Games Workshop. Like as a last resort, Games Workshop.
I think for me, it was seeing Ian Warhammer play Age of Sigmar streamed on the Warhammer Twitch channel. It was just an absolute moment of joy as he set up his beautifully painted army, and then his dice just died on camera, and you could see from his little tiny bald spot at the top to the hunch of his shoulders, bless his heart, he just got more and more devastated in front of thousands of people. And it's just that little moment of like, you are the official Age of Games Workshop loser. It's just, there's just a little. Yeah. No, he didn't though, did he?
Did he not?
No, they didn't give him any.
TV
no, so all he's got is the Twitch clips of him getting absolutely tabled in 2 rounds while everybody really from the club watched. And it's like, actually, that's the only thing for me that I agree. Like, just that would be really cool to be like, oh my god, Warhammer Twitch now, Blood Tie's on there with his corn team. Like, there's a real cool, like, quick wicked moment. I mean, I know that, you know, you and streams. Well, you know what? I think any of us with dice and streams, I have some moments. I have some good moments. I do have some good moments. Skinks for the win in that death bowl. That was outrageous.
Egregious.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Thank you for letting me just chat this through with you, because it's just something that I believe is better as a pipe dream than a reality. And I'm a big fan on wanting more and wishing for more. And I guess I'm just to kind of like tie this up in a little bow. Sometimes being left wanting more is better than being given everything and have it not be as good as it can be. I mean, I don't just mean Blood Bowl 3, but Blood Bowl 3 is a cracking example of this. We're like, oh my god, bring it on, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then you're like, oh, I kind of wish I was still waiting for it to come out. And actually, with the Warhammer previews, I've already seen some stuff in places being like, oh, no Blood Bowl. And I'm like, do you know what? We waited a year for Vampires, and it's been great. The team's interesting. They've expanded it. We've got star players. There's fluffy rules. We've got something to explore and like enjoy for now. So being left not having everything you want is probably a really good thing. And I know that's middle of the road, but actually I want more all the time. But I know that if they gave me more, that there'd be a problem with it. And it's just part of the human condition, I think, especially as being a gamer. But with that in mind, before we move on to the hobby section, just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who supports us in any way, shape or form, whether it's just supporting us on Patreon or YouTube, or watching the videos, subscribing, abusing us in the comments or the Discord, or, you know, supporting the channel with the shop, or supporting Blood Tithe with making him paint 24/7, which I'm a big fan of. Ben, I've put your link in the show notes now. It's like in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been like 2 months. But finally,
Bonehead 10% off.
There you go. Yep.
Brushtide.com.
I think it's under unemployed Ben paints models. I'm not sure if that's. Oh, by the way, I keep referring to Tiff as unemployed Tiff. She's on maternity. So that's another quality move there, guys. Relationship tips.
She loves that.
Yeah, she loves that I work from home. Anyway, on to hobby. It's hobby, games, painting, buying, priming. Ben, painted anything?
Yes, I have. I painted my team for Games Workshop, which got lots of recognition at the cabinet, which they weren't allowed to enter at the tournament. God damn it. And turns out that they nominated 8 teams and I didn't seem to make the cut, which I'm very angry about. I left them good feedback. If anyone from Games Workshop is listening or from the events team, don't do that. Let people enter. People put a lot of time into that. So very mad. But other than that, I have been working on some brush tie stuff. I've got an order going out tomorrow. Some Where Games Dark Elves. So that's exciting. And yeah, that's about it, actually.
Not bad. Not bad at all. Right. I actually got a Blood Bowl game in, and it was wicked. And it was Halloween, and I busted out the new vampire team for my league, and I played a wonderful game against John, who was running Necromantic, so it was doubly spooky. And it was an absolutely cracking game. John was fantastic. Do you know what? Running a new team properly in league and having not really played at club for a little while, I was rusty. I was legitimately rusty. And the worst thing is, Ben, I did tell Ian off for this. I walked in and we had all the tables spaced out. And I was like, Ian, what are we doing? COVID is over. He was like, oh, yeah, we should really start doing that. Should we put the tables back now? And I was like, no, it's fine. But next week, let's put the big grand hall table back in, because it was way too much fun to watch everybody's misery left and right. And he was like, yeah. It's like, cool. Anyway, after that, I sat awkwardly sideways on a table, which was also quite challenging, because I was like, I can't play sideways. This is miserable. It wasn't miserable. It was fine. So I shimmied up to the end. But John, he had his Necromantic horror game, and it was a pretty good Necro team. There was a Blodge Wolf, a Block Wolf, a Blodge Ghoul with sure hands, and a bunch of guard ghosties. So I kind of went into it and I was like, So I ruined his day by taking Ivan the Animal Death Shroud. So I got to try out 2 of the new things. I got to try out the new Vampire roster, again, another team, and I got to try out one of the new star players. And do you know what? I love them both so much. opened up the game. I elected to receive, so I could get the opening blocks with the Varg. So I'm running a Varg, a runner, 2 throwers, 4 rerolls, and I went with the minimum amount of thralls for the first game so I could chuck it into DF so I could start generating income, because I was like, well, you know what? Thralls are only 80k. If I start with 12, I'm going to lose one anyway, so I'm going to be starting with 11 next game. I might as well suck it up, vampire pun intended, for a couple of games and use Journeyman while my vampires level up. I sort of said to John, I was like, really sorry, dude, I'm going to make some counterintuitive plays because I need to brew up the SPPs. I was like, so I'm going to be backfield throwing. I'm going to be playing pitch and catch with my players a little bit. So open up, did some blocks. Ivan was good. Vargolf was good, doing some punching. My 2 throwers played catch in the backfield for a couple of turns and brewed up some SP. And then my runner just wandered off and scored a touchdown. And I was like, all right, this is cooking. This is okay. Only had a couple of failed bloodlusts. 4 rerolls would do that. Just to try and keep them cooking. So opened up, got a completion, and then a casualty. One of my thralls did it. Then I got another completion. Then I got another completion. Then I gave it off to the runner, and she ran in for the touchdown. So I was like, okay, I could have done that in 2 turns. I like vampires. This is quite fun, because I was worried that they would be slow in circumstances, and I was worried about the runner being left out on a row. But the runner was wicked. Ben, I think you did call this, like, don't worry about bloodlust. And you know what? Don't worry about bloodlust. Worry about going for it into the end zone, because that's what cost me the 2-1 win on turn 16. But actually, the team did great. Ivan was awesome. For 190k, he is exactly what you want against a developed team. So if you're running Sylvanian Spotlight, he is what you want. Block and tackle with movement 6 and strength 4.
That's pretty good.
It's so good. Like, so I had the Varg, I had my 2 throwers, and I had Ivan. So they were just 2-die hitters everywhere on my field. So the Bludge Wolf was only strength 3. Like,
And I was going to say, you've got Hypnogaze. You can turn both them off if you need to, right?
so play of the game. He's driving. Bludge Wolf gets the ball. He's going down the sideline. He's moved some people in and tagged up Ivan. I think he might have just thrown a lot of resource to knock Ivan down and keep him out of the way. And he runs down the side, completely out of range of my vampires, in range of my Vargolf, the Vargeist. But the Vargeist is tagged by 2 players. So he's like, right, he's setting it up, and he's like, okay, well, best you got here is a 4+ dodge onto the ball carrier, and he's got a loner. So I was like, okay, that's fair enough. And I looked at it, and I was like, all right, do you know what? I'm just gonna try some Hypnogaze things. I was like, if the Hypnogaze works out, I don't even have to make a dodge. So one Hypnogaze guy went in, Hypnogaze the dude. The other vampire went in, Hypnogaze the other guy off the Vargolf. The Vargeist activates, doesn't bloodlust, wanders right up to the ball carrier, and I'm about to frenzy him off the pitch, and he just rolls both down. And I was like, ah.
Oh.
But the cool thing was, the threat range of everything is significant. I did it again later, where I was like, well, I can take a 2+ dodge with the ball carrier here, or I can move up another vampire and try a 2+ Hypnogaze, so that I don't even have to roll the dodge, and it mitigates so much, and it always gives you these options. And I was chatting with a load of guys at Bonehead Bowl at the weekend about vampires, where obviously everyone's trying them out now, and they were like, yeah, this is like, if you know what you're doing, you see this extra layer of Hypnogaze opportunities that most opponents are going to struggle to see. And it's really, really, really good. So I was really chuffed.
Different
with
game,
that.
isn't it? When you can just sort of, because you're never used to it, especially with vampires not being like really that well represented in this edition. To have to like remember that you're up against vampires and they can just turn things off. Like Tackle Zone, who cares? Skills, Lodge, who cares?
Yeah, you're going to set your defense up, and but any part of that could be turned off. So it's going to make us, and I think we've said it a few times, good vampire coaches are going to be a nightmare to play against.
They were not slow. They were just fine. So really enjoyed that. The only frustrating thing about the game is that I finished with 1 SPP on one thrower, 2 SPP on another thrower, 3 SPP on my runner. So naturally, put them all 3 forward for the MVP, and the MVP landed on the 1 SPP player. So now I've got a 5 SPP, a 2 SPP, and a 3 SPP vampire. They're all this close.
Game's gonna be good.
Yeah, that's the. And I tell you what, a little like etiquette tip: if you do rock up to your opponent, you're like, just to warn you, I'm going to be doing my best to farm SPP by doing things. I think was an honourable thing to do. And also, you just don't want to be like, what are you doing? Throwing the ball around in the backfield. I was like, look, I don't care if I lose as long as I level up my vampires, which was kind of like how I went into the game, because I was like, I don't care. Like, as soon as they got pro, I can start winning. So I was like, if I drop the ball, I did get a 1-1 on a throw. I went for the second completion with the guy with one completion, and he 1-1'd it. And I was like, oh, what are you doing, buddy? But yeah, scoop.
I'll
It's
happen on
fine.
anyone.
Yeah, exactly. So I loved them. Really looking forward to my next game. Obviously, the team has not had any chance to dev. In fact, my TV's gone down because I had a lineman die, I think. So I've probably only got 10. I've got 9 players left. That's right. One's missed next game. One guy died. So my choice to not buy 12 thralls at the beginning was rewarded, because I would have been down to 10 anyway. So actually, that money going into a reroll was significantly better.
That loner will be a nice bloodlust target.
I'm just like, you
Nice
go
game.
on the line and die, and
Yeah.
you're free. So it didn't pay for you. So that's wicked. One thing I did notice, though, on tour play is you don't have, well, in our league, you don't have the classic mercenaries available. Like the mercenary that's the positional plus 30k. Because I was like, we had this really annoying thing that we need to stop in our league, which is like set up the matches, but then on the drive to club, everyone buys skills and stuff. So you're like, oh, I'm down on a 220k. Okay, fine. I'll take Ivan. Get Ivan off the shelf, put him in your miniature box, take him, and to find out you're actually down 300k because your opponent's changed up stuff and they've seen that you're a dodge team and they've all taken tackle on their SPPs. I was like, okay, we need to tighten that rule up a bit. Like, I think once you run around, rosters need to be locked. So that you don't kind of skill farm against teams, and also that TV management is a bit.
Our little warning saying, going to lock the rounds in tomorrow.
Yeah.
Last call to choose your skills. Otherwise, you don't.
Yeah, and it gives you the opportunity to kind of. Well, Craig had this actually. He brought his retro Chaos Dwarves, and he rocked up and he was like, didn't know I was going to be this amount of TV down, and I don't know what to do with it. Like, so he just took rubbish choices instead of bringing Hackflem, because he thought it was only like 90k down, not 200 and something. So he was like, oh, I could have been like, guys, I'm 250k down. I mean, Trips, we do this all the time in the chat, right? We're like, right, look at my game. What have we got? Yeah. Interesting one.
We'll
But
do that.
vampires were wicked. My opponent was absolutely wicked. Necro are great. And yeah, literally last turn of the game, got the runner, got the ball, kind of YOLO'd it because everyone was tied up, and passed the bloodlust, passed the dodge, passed the first go for it, and met the ground with the final one on the final whistle. But hey, can't beat a tripwire. I was just really pleased that actually vanilla vampires were competitive with a 1250 Necro team. Really happy with that. They're not tier 1, but they are good. Any games for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I got 3 in at the weekend, but we'll go into that in some more detail. I've been playing a lot of Blood Bowl 3. Well, I say a lot. I've been playing some Blood Bowl 3. That's been quite fun. I think my Orc team in the Season 2 ladder now is on 8 or 9 wins, 6 draws, and 2 losses. Which isn't too bad.
Bet those losses came from cheeky Underworld teams.
One of them did, I think. One of them was Lizards. And they were quite early on.
That's fair.
I mean, the team's like silly developed now. I think everyone has block except for 2 of the big uns. All of the blitzers have guard. One of them has mighty blow. 2 of the big uns have guard. The thrower has block. Everyone has block. And
people hate dwarves.
It's kind of silly. But it's kind of like it's a weird one. I was talking to Wayne about this at Bonehead Bowl on the weekend. It's like I really like Blood Bowl. Like the Blood Bowl 3 experience is very, very different to playing in tabletop. And I think we briefly touched on this, didn't we, Ben? There's the social element to it that's obviously missing enormously. And as I understand it, like there's not going to be any chat facility in BB3 due to like regulations or licensing or something. So they've decided to opt out of that. which is a bit disappointing because like chatting with your opponent's like half the fun. So when that's kind of taken out of it, you're really just kind of like focused on the game. Now the games do go considerably quicker, so it's not you're not not hanging around for those games particularly. What I think it's really good for is practicing the game. I think it's given me opportunity to think way more about my positioning and stuff than I maybe ever did before, because I'm less concerned about it. And I think that helped prepare me enormously for the tournament, because if I hadn't been playing on BB3, I'd have rocked up really rusty and just not been able to play properly at all. And so, yeah, I'm enjoying it, but it is a really, really different experience. But I did have some fun with some of the guys on the Discord. Me and Trips did Wednesday. No, this was a couple of weeks back now. We didn't do it on Wednesday last week because I think you were busy and I wasn't feeling very well. But we do plan on doing that again. And I played with Papa Z. Played a couple of games with him. I've played with, I want to say, Charon. Is that the right way to pronounce it?
Yeah.
I'm guessing so. Those have been both really good fun games. Well, actually, the first one against Papa Z, I picked Dark Elves and they just like all died. So that was the end of that team. That just got sacked off. And then I picked up OWA. And actually, OWA are really good fun.
They are.
I had a lot of fun with OWA. Yeah, like the Troll Slayers, such a phenomenal piece. Like,
Who knew?
who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew? What a
The Slayer.
cool
The
piece
Slayer
to
is
play.
wicked, especially if you're running him on a team that you don't feel bad about. Like, because you're like, oh, I've got the Slayer, but I'm running OWA, so it's fine. And you're like, no.
Yeah, and he's by far the focus of that team, because you're like, what does everything else do? Not everything great. This is a pure troll slayer.
Oh yeah, I was just rolling these like one die blocks everywhere with him, just like forgetting that I've got to like follow up with it, and he was just doing phenomenally well. Yeah, I had a couple of really good games with those, so those were fun. And yeah, I painted up some snots for the Bonehead Bowl. That was good fun, like 24-hour snots, because I completely forgot that I was supposed to do them.
Well,
But they
that's
came out right.
after everyone convinced you that you needed to take Snotlings in your Orc team for mixed teams.
I mean, yeah, that was worth it. We'll talk about that in a
I
bit.
was going to say, you come back and congratulate Ben on that one in a bit, I reckon. Now, talking about little frenzy pieces, Trips, did I see the Serial Killers got another game in?
Yeah, we had game 4 of the league on Halloween night. We had an Elven Union team, although when you think Elven Union team, and Khorne, you don't think that the elves are going to turn up with more block than you, and significantly big TV. So I had Scylla and Max as inducements, and my continuing luck of Max started with the classic throw a rock type thing from the crowd. Max stunned on turn 0, so out, and then spent the entire game chasing after everyone who suitably run away. So yeah, it was a hard game because Byron's a really good player and his team are really good. He's got a catcher that's, I think
that catcher is dirty.
He's got a catcher with catch, dodge, mighty blow, and block. It's not a catcher.
it's a blitzer.
Yeah, and it proved it actually because he failed to sneak into the end zone on turn 8 of the first half. So I received the ball, was down on numbers quite quickly, got slowly picked off player by player. Byron got the ball, tried to eke it out to the end of the first half, and I managed to do a cheeky dodge blitz in my turn 8 to get the ball on the ground, and he couldn't pick it up. And then second half, I think I had 6 players on the pitch to start the second half. I failed all of my knockout rolls at half time. So I was without my blood spawn, without 2 of my blood seekers, and a couple of other pieces. So yeah, slowly got picked apart. conceded the touchdown and lost 1-0. So
I mean,
1-0
1-0
doesn't seem too bad.
against,
it was
corner
1-0,
near you.
but it probably should have been 3-0. It was one of those where, he should have been 1-0 up at half time. He would have scored easy in the second half. And I think I had like 4 or 5 players left on the pitch at the end. So
Oh, that's still really good as far as an outcome comes. And I see you got a random completion as well. So you're just standard
spammed the
trips.
random completion. I thought I'd try it at the end of the game and got it. So heading towards my second skill with my corn gore. I've got the 4 blood seekers now. 2 of them have got block.
And they're all back.
I've got a lineman who's got a niggling injury, so I gave him a random, and he's got dirty player, which
That
That seems quite good. Yeah.
That's a really
quite
good pickup.
handy, that one. So the TV sneaking up quite quickly already, despite only having 11 players. So I've got.
Are you saving up for that extra reroll? They're 70k rerolls, Corn, aren't they?
Yeah, it's either the reroll or the inevitable lose a piece that I really need to replace quickly.
That's a tough one.
You can't get leader easily either. So
No. Corn Gore's, it's double, isn't it?
yeah, it's double.
It's also a waste of a Corn Gore.
Yeah.
I'd quite like to get the second corn gore, but I'd like a lineman to die first because I don't want to carry the TV bloat.
I mean, I was going to say, with Corn, it'll probably take care of itself.
Yeah.
No, that is wicked. It's great to see the league kicking off. It's great to be back in the league, which is wicked. And yeah, really, really, really pleased. Now, Ben and Milton, obviously you've got some games for Bonehead Bowl. Anything else you want to touch on right now before we bounce into that?
No, not really. I was going to say I could talk about the games of the Warhammer world, but they were just bad games. So I wouldn't touch on it. I don't really remember them.
Groovy. Well, let's take a quick break and be right back. Okay, so Bonehead Bowl, annual tournament of complete nonsense. So it is a 3-game 11s tournament that we run at Entoyment every year, and it's mixed teams. Proper mixed teams, not this college nonsense, although the college teams are also allowed, as are vanilla teams too. And giants. So every year, Bonehead Bowl is kind of like Broken Blood Bowl, or Blood Bowl turned up to 11. Like, if you ever sit around going, oh, what if I could take like Dark Elves and Skaven? Would that do very well? Yes, it would. And people should do that, especially in 7s. Hangover Bowl. So every year we hold this tournament, and this one has been one I've been super looking forward to. So 3 games of 11s, and it was fantastic. Now, full disclosure, I've not put the results up on the website yet, so we're going to be going through the standard sheet. I've just had some stuff happen the last few days, which has got in the way a little bit, but it'll be up before this podcast airs, so that's not too bad. So the way Bonehead Bowl works is, if you want to take a mixed team, there's 2 groups. There's Order or Chaotic. You can take 2 of those teams. You got to take at least 4 players from each roster, and you got to use the most expensive rerolls. That's basically the rules. You can take giants. If one team can take the star player, you can take the star player, and it's really down to you to figure out what outrageous nonsense there is. And we saw some pretty fun roster builds in there. Now, Milton and Trips did a beautiful job processing the rosters ahead of time. Milton in particular did a really good job hunting people down. I saw the best comment in the world. I think I might have shared it with the group, which was on the last podcast where we were like, oh, all the rosters are in. And someone was like, the rosters are in because of Milton's been to prison or something. Which I thought was an absolutely quality quality comment.
If it gets the rosters in, that's absolutely fine.
But no, I mean, that was such a massive deal though, having all the rosters in, and it really felt like people were really excited, Milton, to start like to brew up the rosters, to kind of show them off.
I actually love it. Like, the thing about Bonehead Bowl is, I mean, like every tournament's great fun, and that kind of build up to the tournament's always really exciting. But I think more so with Bonehead Bowl, just because there are so many possible variations, and every year we have some new players, we have some returning players, and there's this general excitement for people to show off what they've come up with. Because, if you're going to a standard 11s team, you're going to be running probably like, your favorite team or a new team or something, and you're looking at like a fairly standard build for the package or whatever. But for Bonehead Bowl, nobody knows what you're bringing because it could be absolute nonsense. And yeah, they're particularly fun. Like, the guys that are on the Discord that have been talking about it, they were really excited, and it was really fun, like ramping up on the Discord and chatting about it, particularly teasing, like as the rosters were coming in and I was seeing who was bringing what, kind of seeing like what was coming in and just like teasing that out. And then eventually when we were done, and people were really good about getting the rosters in. We only had one late roster, and I won't name and shame who it was. And the reason they were late was because they didn't realize they'd bought a ticket and were angry that they couldn't get a ticket because the tickets had sold out, not realizing that they had basically been one of the first people to buy a ticket and completely forgotten.
Yeah, he did come and see me. It was like, I didn't realize I was going.
Yeah.
Until Milton emailed me, and I was like, amazing.
Yeah. So no, thank you for getting your rosters in. That was really helpful because that enabled us to process it really well. So
you're going to call me out for being the latest roster in, which
yeah, that was atrocious,
Ben. It's always one of us. Like, it's always one of us.
No, Ben did his roster and then realised he didn't actually have the teams. I had to revisit the roster. Actually,
it's challenging, but no, Milt, you did a fantastic job herding that. Like, a standard tournament is a challenge, but actually having 46 plus rosters of this level of just indecency was absolutely superb, man. So thank you very much. Having that prepped, having that ready to go, having that sorted ahead of time was just, it was like the first time we've been able to do a proper preview of a tournament and be like, this is the teams, this is the shenanigans, and it was wicked to see.
The thing that really stood out to me is that there was considerably more accuracy in the mixed rosters than we normally get in the standard tournaments. So like we had way less issues with like going back on like rosters that were illegal or whatever than we would in like one of our like standard 11s tournaments. So I mean, I think that just goes to show how much people like care about their mixed teams and how much time and attention people had like put into making the teams, which is all part of the fun.
I love it. So what we've got up on screen, what we're going to go through is some of the spreadsheet that we use to put on the TV. So when we run our tournaments, we have a TV, we put the rounds up, we put the registration up, just so that people don't have to scream across the room or wait around. So we had a whole bunch of chaps. Only 2 couldn't make it on the day, which was gutting because it would have been great to see them. But actually, with the weather, with the flooding, with the carnage, and with general life and winter, only having 2 people out of 48 drop out on the day, absolutely outrageous. I think that's the best. I think that's the best we've ever had. So it was cool. I mean, one was Necro Skaven, which would have been horrific, and another was High Elf and Halfling, which would have been really interesting to see as well. But we had a ton of cool rosters. But I think before we kind of pick a couple that we really like the look of, Ben, what did you run on the day once we realised that your Amazons were in my cupboard somewhere?
I ran Khorne Chaos Dwarf, as I mentioned on the last pod. I did change it up beforehand to the Amazon Nobility one, which could have been really interesting because that was just stand firm, dodge, and all of that.
Oh, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, well, I had the full game plan in mind. I thought this is going to be really fun. We're going to like just not move and see what happens.
Got a really fun roster for you. It's Dwarves and Nobility linemen.
Yeah, that's just bad. That's just worse dwarf. But no, ran Khorne Chaos Dwarf, which was oppressive, I think.
Yeah, Khorne Chorf, OP nonsense.
I don't think it was as bad as. I don't think it was as strong as Mono Khorne or Mono Chaos Dwarf, though. I think it actually made it a bit weaker.
Wow.
I love that we've got a format where mono Chorth is a deck list.
Actually,
Like,
no, it was
how
better. It
good
was
is
better than
that?
Khorne. Better than Khorne. Worse than Mono Chaos Dwarf. Yeah.
Interesting. That's
Yeah. Bull
interesting.
Centaur didn't really do anything on his own. It was like he did threaten in a couple of games by going around as like a backfield harassment, which is useful. But with just the way I was playing them, was very grindy. It was just quite standard, and I thought like I kind of could use a couple more frenzy pieces here. I took 2 Hobgoblin linemen instead because I figured less frenzy is better
Yeah, I
when
was
you
gonna
already have
say.
a lot of it.
Yep.
And they're cheaper. Yeah, having 40k and 50k linemen makes building very easy. You can just sort of trade up 10k where you can. But yeah, it was interesting. It was fun. It was fun. I think it was definitely more fun than Chaos Dwarf, obviously. But yeah. I think the roster was the roster was the Minotaur, Chaos Dwarf Minotaur, which is fantastic because he's the great big guy, and Savagery, it's brilliant. 3 Bloodseekers, 2 hit block, Bull Centaur, 2 Dwarves, 1 Corngore with Sure Hands, which failed me every time, and then
Sure
1
Hands
Khorne
is the
lineman.
worst 3+ in the game.
I've got a fun anecdote for my last game. Should I just say that now? Or are we
Yeah, go
gonna
for it.
play
Go for it.
game? Cool. Okay, so the last game I played against Daniel, amazing coach. He was running ogres and Norse, and the beer ball picking up ogres is really annoying. So, yeah, that does work quite well. But my Corngore failed to pick up the ball. It was a really deep kick. It was on the line of scrimmage, and not line of scrimmage, end zone, my own end zone, and failed to pick it up 2 turns in a row. And this guy sent a Noblar around, just trotting along down the pitch, and I was there like after my second failed pickup turnover was like, oh no, I need to blitz this guy, otherwise he 2 rushes from just getting the ball, and I can't blitz him because he sidestep into range. So I'm there just having this like dilemma in my mind where I'm like, okay, I could fail the pickup here, or blitz him and pray I get a POW, because if I don't, he now no longer has to rush to get the ball. And he only went and bloody did it, but then tripped over on his. I think he tripped over on the dodge. I think he ran in, picked up the ball, and then had to dodge out, and then that's when he tripped over. But I was like, oh, that was just far too tense of fumbling the ball and this Noblar just strolling along down, being like, yo, what's up? I'm gonna nick that. Yeah. It was a really fun game, that one.
I've got the montage behind us at the moment on the screen of all the rounds and all the players and stuff like that. Milt, I mean, we know you ran Snotlings. What team did we convince you to run alongside them?
Convince. I never need convincing to run orcs. Yeah, I mean, like, I mentioned it on the podcast a couple weeks back, or was it? It's like a month ago now, I guess. But yeah, no, I took Orc Snotlings, and the reason I took Orc Snotlings is because I was being really boring, and I just wanted to run my orcs. I didn't want to not run a mixed team, and I also wanted the tier 3 skill package access. So basically, I just wanted to run orcs with an extra skill so I could put more block down, which is exactly what I did. And then, like, as we were there on the day, you guys were like, "Oh no, the Snotlings are great. Like, make sure you like run them every round." Oh, they were so good. They were so good. I couldn't believe how good they were. They were so good that I'm now thinking I want a Snotling team.
You should. You should get a Snotling team.
Wow. Yeah. Are we going to go into the games now, or?
Yeah. Let's wander into the games.
My first game was against Andrew Primhat.
Oh, I loved this.
And it was a really good game. Andrew brought it was a Renegades Underworld mix. And if you think about it, Renegades and Underworld are already mixed teams. So this is just like the ultimate mixed team, right? Because you get access to like pretty much everything. And he brought the Bash and the Dash. So he had the Gutter Runner and a Dark Elf, Clan Rat, the Minotaur, a troll. What else did he have? Orc lineman.
He had kind of one of everything.
He had like a little bit of everything, and I won the coin toss, and I thought to myself, I was like, this is a really tricky decision, because what I really need to do is get rid of the Gusser and the elf, because he outstrengths me, and this was such a hard matchup for me to get off the bat, because I've got a bashy team that is effectively being outbashed and outdashed. And that's pretty much what happened. So the first half, well, you're talking about sure hands a second ago. Literally, turn one, first thing I went to do was go and pick up the ball with my thrower. Failed the reroll, turnover. And that, I think, was probably one of the biggest pivotal moments of the game, because, of course, I chose to receive thinking, well, I might get an upper hand on the bash. I'll get a better upper hand on the positioning. I'll try and grind that first score in the first half, take the Gusser and the elf out, and then just stall the second half, right? That was the game plan. And literally off the bat, that just fell apart. And then the next thing I know, his Minotaurs killed one of my blitzers. And by the end of the first half, all 4 of my blitzers were in the Kaz box.
I actually got to see 2 of them happen. Like, I wandered by as well on the third one, and it was amazing.
And Andrew played very well, and that first half was a really, really great game. I really enjoyed that. It was like the positioning from both of us was really tight. Like we were like playing, like his use of the gutter was just phenomenal, and like there was just like things that I just couldn't anticipate that he had obviously seen. And yeah, that was it. But the start of the second half, having with 4 blitzers down, it was just downhill from there. It was so difficult to recover from that. And so I lost that first game 3-0, which is the way you want to go into a tournament, right? And he obviously got the 4 casualties. And so, yeah, I think I got 1 Kaz in that game, so he didn't quite clean sheet me. And I went in for a foul because I think I was just like...
I felt like he emotionally clean sheeted you for that one.
He did, yeah. But I mean, he won the TO choice for his team, which was a very cool team because he'd gone for like a Zinch theme.
Oh, and he'd converted each of the positionals with bit. It was a really lovely team that was beautifully executed.
It was a well-deserved win, and yeah, so that was a hell of a game. But what I did learn from that game was the power of the Snotlings. The Snotlings were absolutely phenomenal. So like having the 2 there and then rolling 2 in. So you've got 13 players on the pitch. So I've basically got like almost a full Orc lineup with 4 Snotlings hanging around. Was ridiculous. And it took me that game to learn how to use them. But in the second and third games, once I'd learned how to use them, they were just like essential for the entire plan, because like I could finally set up serfs, I could finally set up things, because you just bring the Snotlings into the place where you want them, just dodge them in, and then just like knock the guys over off the side of the pitch. Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, my second game was against I went straight down towards the bottom end of the tables. The second game was against John Bustergut, and he had Amazon Lizards. Again, kind of a tough matchup for me because he had 6 Saurus and 2 Amazon blockers. So that's 8 strength 4 pieces and a Crocs. So, and he'd given the blockers block, so they were blodging strength 4 pieces. and then a couple of skinks and a couple of throwers, and only one leader reroll, which I think was ultimately the thing that really like messed with him. But I managed to take the Crocs out in turn 1. Kaz that, and that turned the game for me. But he really fought me for that. That was a really tough game as well, because I could like once the Amazon blockers have got the ball and they've got the block, it's like there's no way of getting it free. Like they've got reasonably decent movement, a strength 4, so you're either 1 die blocking if you're lucky, or you're 2 die uphilling if you're not. Everything else was tangled up with Saurus everywhere, and like just trying to chase that down. But yeah, I did win that game 1-0, and it was literally because he double skulled on the last turn to score, on his blitz to get out. That was it. Otherwise, it would have been a draw, I think. So yeah, like, and then third match again, it was against Robert, and it was Black Orcs and Orcs versus my Orcs and my Snotlings. And so he had 6 Black Orcs, strength 4, and then 2 big uns, strength 4, and then blitzers. And like 1 goblin. It's like there's just so much strength there. I was like, this is really difficult, because normally when you're playing an Orc team, you might have some of that. Like, you know, if you're playing a Lizardman team, but there's a lot of skinks to kill off or whatever, or if you're playing an Orc team, there's loads of Black Orc team, there's loads of goblins to like kill or whatever. But in this scenario, it was basically just wall meets wall, and we rolled so many armor rolls, and none of them broke. And so that is where the Snotlings became amazing, because I used them to start surfing his guys, to start positioning where I could move him to, where he couldn't get out. And then I just jump him in and push him off. I think in the end, I surfed about 4 of his players, which was enough to get me the win, because then I could push through. Again, another really difficult game to play, but you could only ever experience that at Bonehead Bowl.
You're exactly right. Like, that's the best thing about this format, is like it's just more, it's just different, and you will play a whole bunch of teams that are very, very different, which is so good. I mean, I think the highlight with Andrew was beating you 3-0.
I'm not surprised.
That was very, very, very cool. I do have his team up on the screen. He had like a Gene Stealer Magos. He had a whole bunch of Warcry models that he converted, and a beautiful older like Skaven player that he'd converted as well. So it was wicked. I mean, BT, going into your games, can you remember who you played?
Yeah, I played. Yeah, I remember this one. Yeah, so I played up against Khorne and Norse. This was David, I want to say. Sorry. Craggle, Daniel. No. It was Craggle. No, it wasn't Craggle. Where was I? Table. Crabbers. That was it. Andrew Crabbers. Sorry, Daniel was my last game. Yes, Crabbers Andrew with his Leeds United, Khorne, and Necro team. And yeah, Khorne and Necro, brutal. This was a really tough battle. It was a really long game. We ended up calling it a draw with about 4 turns left. It was looking pretty up for me for a lot of it. It was a tough offensive drive. Scored 1-0, had the ball, was going to make it 2-0 from blitzing his ball carrier. But then it happened to scatter into the hands of a werewolf with dodge. Who then proceeded to dodge out, hand off to the other werewolf that scored. And I was like, excellent. That was like 6 + 5 + 4 + situation, but that's what happens. But yeah, so I ended up calling it a draw. Game 2 was against Daryl McPedron, who's definitely had better games. He said he's only had 3 games like that in his life, where he is just utterly miserable. He got very diced. I was up against Orcs and Skaven and just ruined his team. Got loads of 10 armor breaks in the second half. First half was great. It was a really tough matchup. 0-0 at half time. But then I received and just
I was going to say, I was really, really excited when you got drawn against Daryl, because Daryl's excellent. And I was like, this is going to be like a really fun matchup. Actually, I felt the same way when Milton, you got paired up against Andrew. I was like, oh, this is wicked. Like, I love the idea of this matchup, and it sucks to hear that he got diced. But
It was you coming around seeing the gutter runner who had like nicked the ball, and you were like, "Yeah, come on, gutter." I was like,
I did. Yeah, that's exactly it. I was like, come on, I'm favouring the gutter runner here. Come on, and
last very long.
and you exploded him.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a 0-pointer for him, which was kind of gutting. But after seeing the dice roll, was kind of understandable. So that was a 1-0 win. Then game 3 was against Daniel, as I said, the Noblar nicking the ball. Fortunately, I don't think he scored on that instance. But then it was just a really tough fight. Ended up losing quite a lot of players. We both got a free bribe, which encouraged me to foul, which ended up my player getting sent off and the bribe failing. So that happened.
Absolutely baited.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but that was a really fun game. His team was great as well. He had it's like a fire themed team, so he had these fire elementals for the ogres.
Oh, I love that.
Good.
Yeah, and
With the fire extinguishers as well.
Yeah, so he had little fire extinguishers as bonehead markers, so he put them on the fire whenever they boneheaded. He said it was like a fire and ice team with the Norse and stuff. It worked quite well. Yeah, man, beer boars in a mixed team situation. I never even considered that. They're great. He just had a beer boar in the backfield protected. He was like, "Oh, let's roll to stand up my ogres," and it's 5-5-5. Cool, up they get. I'm like, this is outrageous.
That's
Don't need to
ridiculous.
bonehead them. They're just up.
What?
Yeah,
Isn't that right?
I think so. Pick me up, right?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think
you're
it
right.
specifies player types. It's
It
just any
doesn't.
player.
It's just any player. Oh, that's genius.
Yeah, I thought it was genius.
Oh,
Too. That's why I kept blitzing the beer boar.
Just like, right, yeah. Oh, I love that combo. That's brilliant. I tell you what, that was something I absolutely saw. There was some absolutely ingenious combinations and some really thematic stuff that was really all well and good, but there was just some really phenomenal combos. I think one of you guys said this. The inspiration of this was phenomenal, and it kicked off right at the beginning with rocking up and someone being like, "Is this roster stunty?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Is this roster stunty?" And he's like, "Well, I've got Tomb King's, was it like Tomb King's Underworld or something? Is it stunty?" I was like, "Well, of course not." They're like, "Well, we've just got Tomb Guardians and Little Dudes." I was like, "Oh, then yes." Like, I wrote the rule book on this one, and I do not remember this being a thing. Tomb King Underworld with Hackflem, that was Frodo, and they were like, "Is this a stunty roster?" I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Yes." I was just like, from then on, I was like, this is just going to be an outrageous fun mixture of teams. I mean, Trips, you did an absolutely solid job of TOing, entering all the scores, herding all the people all day long. What were some of the highlights of the day for you?
I think highlight would definitely be something that is difficult to see at a lot of tournaments, but in round 1, we had a giant score a touchdown.
Yes.
Mm.
That was a superb moment.
46 people cheering because something that should never, ever happen has. I think that sort of sums up what the community is like when it comes to playing Blood Bowl. So I think that was pretty spectacular. I think seeing 2 games with 16 fouls in by the same coach, another specialty, and just seeing some of the madness that was going on with players. There was lots of sidestepping small guys, annoying very large big guys. I think this was the first year we've really seen the balance of not everyone filling up with just how many strength 4 and strength 5 guys you can get. It's actually, what can I do to compete with the fact that I will be playing 4 or 5 strength 4 or 5 guys. So seeing little guys being chased around the pitch or push the Snotling, you can just see the level of annoyance on coaches as they're like, all I want to do is squish the Snotling. All I want to do is squish the Snotling because there's another load of them. out there. So that was really pretty impressive. One thing I really enjoyed seeing was we had a couple of vanilla teams, and one of them did reasonably well in the day. So we've always thought, was mixed teams broken in terms of unbalance, because you could have all the best things in there, but it was good to see a pure Dark Elf team actually hold their own.
We had
I
a
think
great mix of teams in that way, didn't we?
Yeah, like I said before, I think the Chaos Dwarfs would have been better than my mix. But I think my mix was just for violence. But yeah, like it's I think you can break it if you try for sure. But it's not like the point where you stop your opponent having a game.
I don't know, man.
I don't think you can. I mean, I think people have been trying to.
I
You
think
see,
they
like
tried.
Drew came in with what I thought was going to be the absolute filthiest roster. I mean, I was so convinced. So he brought Orc Snotlings as well. But I went, oh yeah, I just want an extra skill. He went, I want all the filthy megastars. And so he
the
brought
last hurrah.
Yeah, the last hurrah. He brought Hackflem and Bomber, and he was going for it. And the reason that Drew was going for it is because Drew has won all the other tournaments this year, all the other Bonehead tournaments this year. Not all the other tournaments, that would be crazy. But all the other Bonehead tournaments, and he was looking for the complete sweep. And so he'd practiced quite a bit, as I understand it. And his team on paper was, in my opinion, by far the, like, and when I say worst, I mean the like most challenging team. Like very well considered, very well formulated, because it was basically similar to my team, but with the 2 extra stars sort of attached on it. He like sacrificed a few of the positionals to take the stars, but it was very similar in its composition and the concept. And having seen the other kind of lists come in, I was certain that Drew was going to do really well, but the dream ended for him in round 1. So,
I mean, I think there's a bit of a nemesis thing. So being drawn against Dalio first round was that is a tough draw.
Tough game
for anybody and everybody. And I mean, other than that, I think Drew did brilliantly on the day, but just got edged out by Dalio in the first round with they both had beautiful teams, and this is like the roster that could have exploded. But when it comes to Bonehead Bowl, there's, like you said, Milton, there's just more strength 4 players, more movement 8 players than there normally is. So you've got a bit more bash and you've got a bit more dash no matter what you're doing. And that's the thing I love about the format so much. It's like the variation's wicked, but there's my whole shtick with Blood Bowl, right, is that there's always a play, there's always a way out, there's always an out. So play to your outs. Like, if your opponent rolls 1s for a couple of turns and you roll 6s for a couple of turns, there's a chance here. In Bonehead Bowl, it's 1 turn. Like, they roll a couple of 1s, you run a couple of 6s, and you're in there because your team's got some skinks in it because you can. Like, you know what? You've got like tough blockers, and it's just that wicked you got a giant that can just multi-block Mighty Blow +2, and all of a sudden you've turned the tide because now you're playing 7s, and it's just that swing factor. Keeps the games really, 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 really fun for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm waiting for somebody to find the breaking formula, but I don't think we've quite got there yet. If we will.
And it's that Blood Bowl, like, any team can beat any other team any given moment. We've seen it, and it absolutely rings true.
One of my favorite comments on the Discord was when we posted the list the Saturday beforehand of what people were bringing. I think it was Frodo said, it's like, wait, we can bring star players with the Dungeon Bowl teams? And it was, in my head, it was that moment when they're in in Lord of the Rings, when the hobbits are there.
Comes in pints.
It comes in pints now. I was like, well, it's technically just Acorn, and Acorn can play for any team. So yes, he was like, I hadn't even considered this.
No, I hadn't considered that.
Yeah.
That was Stevie, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, College of Life with Acorn. That was his mission that day, was just to run around with Acorn.
We did get some comments about the murder squirrel as well, didn't we? Was it Duncan on the Discord was saying that he was sat in a meeting the other day where he was just like, I can't concentrate on work. I'm too busy reliving the match where I like had half my players murdered by a squirrel.
Well, it was a heck of a day with some absolute nonsense rosters, some beautiful, beautiful teams, some really clever modeling things, like whether you're going for the fire extinguisher. There was a team with 5 big guys, I think, and particularly potentially Creek. I think that might have been the roster, but they printed smaller versions of all the big guys to use as prone and stunned markers, which I thought was just outrageously genius. Genius idea. He painted it so he could put them down in the square, and it actually didn't cause an issue, which I took a photo of it because I am robbing that. That is absolutely superb. But I'm going to be honest, there was far too many awesome moments on the day to talk through them all. And like a massive thank you to all the players. Massive thank you to all the TOing work that you guys did as well. I mean, I got to spend most of the day just in between the rounds, just going over and goading people and seeing really cool things happen and seeing some horrible, horrible situations on the pitch and just cheering on. And it was absolutely phenomenal. But a couple of like really wonderful moments for me. One of them was going into round 3 and having table 1 be Papa Z and Stratford. So Goblin, Snotling, Ripper, Hackflem versus Papa Z running Black Orc, Norse, and Fungus. Like, the matchup itself, so cool. And to see Papa Z up on table 1 as well was also absolutely wicked. So we had Stunty, we had Papa Z, and I was just like, this is wonderful. Like, the whole top row was just so cool. Like, you had Kaijin Chicken there as well versus Scarfang, and I was like, this is Death Wish versus Dalio. It was just like a really, 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 it's just a wicked day of just outrageous stuff.
I love hearing these names like Bonehead Law.
It is, right? It is.
Yeah.
It was so cool. One of my other highlights as well was catching up with Wednesday. So Sarah Jane, after her, I think it was her last round, she'd just gone downstairs after a game. She'd had a rough first round, an awesome second round, and then had a bit of a disaster in the last round. And we had a good chat and a good laugh about that, which was wicked. And when the other 2 members of the Priest pack, David Priest and James Priest, got paired up against each other, I sort of wandered over to James. I was like, James, have you played this guy before? And he just looked at me. It was wicked to see.
You see the proper family seriousness. It was like, it doesn't really matter what happens the rest of the day. This is bragging rights for the whole of the rest of the winter is on now.
Practice is practice. This is for real. And I think James beat David on that one, actually. I think he
did he?
I think he took the Priest Cup.
I think David beat James there.
I was going to say, I think James
he did, yeah.
James came really low, but he got most casualties out of anyone.
Yeah.
I think he nearly pitch cleared them though. I think that's why. So I was talking to Sarah Jane. I'm pretty sure that's what she said.
Yeah, he had 10 casualties and 6 fouls
in that game.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I remember the scorecard coming in and going, I just need to check this because that looks like someone's been putting fouls in the casualty line. And he was proudly like, no, I did 10 casualties. And you could see him like,
wow,
nothing else will beat that. Oh yeah.
I'm impressed David got 2 touchdowns in with 10 casualties suffered.
That's insane.
James is grounded now. But yeah, Titanium Boy is grounded. Well, I mean, Vampire, Underworld, Hackflem, and Cheney for Master Wiggins.
Yeah, he deserved that.
It's just beautiful. Yeah,
probably just Cheney on his own, just at the end running around.
It's just him and 2 touchdowns, 1 for Hackflem, 1 for Cheney in that one, I reckon. But it was just phenomenal. So we've got the final standings will be up on our site before this podcast goes out, and just I think we need to work on trying to find a way to share the rosters out public because it's just so much nonsense. I already can't wait for next year. But Stratford with Goblins, Snotlings, Ripper and Hackflem did take it on the day, which was awesome. So not only stunty, it was double stunty. I mean, yeah, Ripper and Hackflem, but absolutely fantastic to see. And we had a few 3-0s, so it's always tough on the points. Kaijin Chicken. Oh, sorry, Drips.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say he proved that that fouling absolutely can win, because he was doing a lot of fouling and clearing players through that. But that allowed him to win a 3-game tournament with only scoring 5 touchdowns.
Yeah,
but he did not concede a touchdown all day.
That was cool to see. So Stratford, number 1, Kaijin Chicken, our buddy Nick, Corn Goblin and Bomber, 3-0 as well. Dalio, after taking on Drew and winning in round 1. Chaos Renegades, Tomb Kings and Ivan. Death Shroud, I don't sleep on Death Shroud, he's awesome, was 3rd. And also at 3-0 was Hector with Dark Elf and Norse. And top 5 rounds out with our buddy Wayne, who's changed from Gimli 01 to BB Sprout with Black Orcs and Khorne. And just a phenomenal bunch. Grumpy Sprite, Kekarak, Primac, Drew Blood 9, Papa Z 10. There's some absolutely wicked combinations with the new vampires in there as well. Like, every single one of these rosters was just awesome. Like, and I would play against them any day. But full standings will be out on the tournament, out on the page by the weekend.
And we should touch on the thing that was by far and away the most important thing for Milton at the end of round 3, which was, where am I in relation to Ben? That was all he cared about.
I'll tell you what, I was so miffed about when we were in Nottingham at the Sevens tournament, and Ben was like right at the bottom table, I was in the middle, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing all right. And because of their point system, Ben leaped from me by like 20-something points in that one game. And I was like, I'm not having it this time. I'm like, I'm not seeing that happen. I'm going from the bottom here to the top. We're going to see it happen. And I did it.
It's going to bring cheating orcs. That's the only way you can beat me, Milton.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, final standings for you two. Blood Tithe, about 23. Where's Miltonio?
15th.
Oh.
Mhm.
Oh, well done, lads. Well fought. We should have fixed it so that you two played each other on round 3. Should have had like a little death match.
When we were doing the round draws, it was the thing that I was checking for to see how close they were. Just, you couldn't quite line your points close enough up during the day, gents.
Try harder next time.
Yeah, I was full up for a TO fiddle on that one.
Should have been a good
I'm
one.
sorry.
Definitely need to rename it, but yeah, definitely a cunning strategy. So that is it for Bonehead Bowl. I love the Dungeon Bowl event we run, and I love Beachhead because it's just something special. But Bonehead Bowl is just, by that point in the year, it feels like everyone's ready for it, because it's like, this is not the same Dark Elf team I've played 7 times. Like, this is not Khorne again. This is just something unnecessary. And a massive shout out to those guys who are running Giants on the day as well.
Oh, we need to talk about the
I thought you'd
Giants.
want to get that story in, Milk, before we wrapped up.
Yeah. So the Giants were a bit of an interesting one. So there were 4 guys that came with Giants. Now, I didn't know this until the day, but in the build-up to the event, once the list had gone out on the onto the Discord so people could check, Malthus, one of the attenders, said to me, "What the list's wrong. Neil Doherty is bringing a giant." And I thought, oh yeah, I must have just got something typed in wrong. So I was like, due diligence, I'll go and check. Brought the list up, and I was like, no, there's no giant here. So I messaged back and said, no, I've double checked the roster. There's no giant on that one. It's right. At which point, this sort of like thread exploded because turns out they'd all agreed that they were coming with giants. And Neil had lied to them about bringing a giant and submitting a list without one, to which they were furious about. And I kind of thought, oh, okay, whatever. It's kind of funny. The closer we got to the event, the more they were talking about it in the Discord. And then Malthus said, "Oh, I'll let you know when Neil's coming because when he comes into the room, I need everyone to boo him for lying about the giant." And I thought to myself, I said, "Well, I can one up that. I'm going to go change his cover sheet." So I changed his cover sheet to read Neil, Giant Liar Doherty, Goblins with excluding Giant. Where's your giant? What I didn't realize was on the day they explained that they'd named the giants after each one of us. And he was supposed to do me. So I feel like the entire thing was justified now.
Yeah.
You each got a
Personal.
giant and I didn't get one. So now it was personal.
I loved it. I thought it was wicked. It's such a cool thing to do for a tournament, like to go with a shtick, to go with like a whole angle. Yeah, so good. Right, guys, we're gonna have to wrap up now. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on that we've missed off, other than just a whole day's worth of awesome stories?
No, good. Enjoyed it a lot.
Absolutely
Really
wicked.
good. And thank you for everyone attending.
Yeah, thank you so much for attending. And Trips, thank you for TOing. You did an absolutely outrageous job. Really good on the day. And Ben for setting up score, Milt for doing the rosters, and both of you for playing. I think it went really well. But we're going to have to wrap up for now. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.